Now this is where things will start getting overlapping. Okay, so far there was a clear cut difference between the two biases. Now they would start overlapping each other. Anchoring and adjustment. Okay, so we were reading the pharmaceutical case. Do you remember that there was a reference to Swiss franc 80, the all-time 52-week high reached by that stock? That was a case of anchoring. So what you basically do in anchoring is that when a new information comes, you select the anchor, some base point, and then you start adjusting it north or south. For example, I want to analyze stock of some company, okay, and I want to come up with a valuation. What I would do is I would select an anchor, okay, some price that I perceive is correct, and then whatever new information comes, I'll start adjusting it on either direction, either north or south. That is called anchoring and adjustment. Rather than using a complete rational discounted cash flow valuation approach, you start with the anchor and then start doing up and down. Okay, another, like for example, you pick up some stock, maybe EduComp. Okay, there used to be a big rally at one stage, right, and stock reached really high. So let's say hypothetical, stock reached at a high of 10,000. Okay, now someone entered into the stock at 10,000 and current price is 8,000. However, he's kind of anchored to this price, 10,000. So what he says is, I'm still only 2,000 less than that, and there's a high probability I'll again go above that. So this 10,000 value is anchored, and then every time new information comes, he tries to play around this 10,000 value. This is called anchoring and adjustment. So tend to remain focused on and stay close to their original forecast or what they interpret the value is. Mitigation is give new information thorough consideration to determine impact on the original forecast. Okay, so what you would write down is remain focused on one anchored value. Remain focused on one anchored value. And then adjust forecast up or down based on new information. Adjust forecast up or down based on new information. Are we okay here? Next one, mental accounting, and maybe this is one of the easiest to remember here. So now what happens in mental accounting is, have you done this earlier? Do you remember this? Have you done this, Gil? Let's say this is Vipul. ठीक है ना? And Vipul has different financial goals. Okay, so the first goal that Vipul has is that he wants his children to have good education. Yeah, before that maybe also have some portfolio for getting married. Then second goal that he's got, maybe he wants to buy some let's say property, okay, a residential property in Pune. And the third goal, he wants to buy himself an exotic vacation, okay, an expensive one. These are the three goals. So now he's started saving for these different three goals. What most of the people would do is, what mental accounting is, they would create their portfolio in a structured pyramid fashion. Generally, the base of this pyramid is the most important goal to them, which is the portfolio required for funding children's education. Since this is an important goal, most of the investment that would be layered in this portfolio would be risk-free or low risk, but they might earn you low return. Then the second in the layer is that he intends to purchase a property, which comes second in the hierarchy. So this is where he would be willing to take moderate amount of risk. And the third one, buying exotic vacation, since this is not an immediate priority, plus it requires heavy cash flow, This comes at the top of the pyramid where he would take high amount of risks to reach to higher level of desired returns. So now what he's done mental accounting, that this portfolio is available, this portfolio for these purposes or these objectives. Now you would ask, what is going wrong in this case? Can you help me identify what is wrong in this portfolio building pattern? Yes, ideally you want to look at the portfolio from a holistic perspective using all the Markowitz or efficient frontier theory that we've studied in the past, and you also want to consider the correlations of these assets with each other. However, with mental accounting he's failing to do that because he's got layers of investments and every layer is being designated to one particular goal that he's got. Are we clear with this? So just make this pyramid and you should be able to recall what mental accounting is. Done making this? Portfolio tends to resemble layer pyramids of assets. Subconsciously ignore the correlations of the assets. May consider income and capital gains separately. Write down this point. We've covered correlation. Write down this point. May consider income and capital gains separately. Are we done? Next one. Availability of bias. 4 causes. Write down all the 4 points. Retrievability, categorization, narrow range of experience, and resonance. Okay, if you see hint of any of these 4 behavioral aspects, then you know that it's an availability bias. Done writing on the 4? Let's understand what is this. Let's say retrievability bias. You want to select a good, so it happened to me in fact, in your case we had this discussion. My pet, I had a dog and he got sick, okay, very seriously sick. So I wanted a doctor, a vet who could cure him. Now I googled for some names, and sometime back I had a discussion with Vikram, so he had referred me one name somewhere in Pout. Okay. So when I googled for some names, that name popped up, and then I in fact went and visited that vet. So what I did was I retrieved what information was easily available, isn't it? I did not do a thorough analysis in terms of maybe going and reading more reviews or judging a doctor. Of course it's difficult to do that, but I didn't do a thorough analysis. I took decision only based on what information could have been retrieved easily. So retrievability. Is this clear? The first one. Second one is categorization. Okay. So categorization is you categorize a stock into different segments. For example, let's say Just Dial is a growth stock. Okay. And then you try to evaluate the stock only based on what category you've put this into. Or let's say you feel that Kingfisher Airlines is not a good stock, right? and maybe completely, or let's say you feel it's a junk stock, it's completely wasted. So even if new pieces of information keep on coming which are good, you still have put that into a category that it's not a good stock, and then you're not willing to change your view. So that's called categorization. Excuse me. The third one is narrow range of experience. Okay, so Schweizers, they've given really good example of a level 3 candidate. A level 3 candidate who is short of time wants to study. So what he does is he takes the past actual exam papers available of last 3-4 exams. He sees what questions will come and he prepares only those or those types of questions. So now what is done is the frame that is selected for preparation, he's kept that very narrow. In case of stock, you decide that only price to earning ratio, ROE and maybe price to sales ratio are important, nothing else. And then only based on that frame you evaluate a stock. That's called narrow range of experience. Are we okay here? And the last one is resonance. Resonance means you feel that what I feel is important is only important, nothing else. What I feel is important is the only important factor available to evaluate the stock, nothing else. So my perception is that I expect a substantial sales volume growth of TVS Motors. Okay, this is, I feel, is the most important point which defines an automobile sector. Now, if I feel this is important, I would assume that everyone would also know that this is important, and the decision should be taken only based on price to sales multiple. And you would see that all these are overlapping in a way. So this resonance is also similar to narrow range of experience, and that's why all of them are clubbed into one bias, which is availability bias. Are we clear with this? No, it is not, because in confirmation you took only positive information, no matter whatever it was. In this case, you would take only that information which you feel is important, nothing else. Yes, there is a overlapping, but there is a higher probability of cognitive error, lesser of emotional in this case. For example, let's say in confirmation, so let's say I have a positive view on TVS as of now. I don't, but hypothetical. I have a positive view on TVS as of now. And I feel that the sales volume is the most important one. New data comes which says that sales has decreased. If I am using the confirmation bias, I will not consider that data. However, that data would be considered in case of availability bias because it fits into resonance. Are we clear? Impact. Select investments based on how easily their memories are retrieved and categorized. Narrow range of experiences can lead to concentrated portfolios. So the only thing that you'd write is concentrated portfolios is the impact. And mitigation is develop an IPS. Okay, generally it's a rule of thumb. If you get stuck somewhere in the exam and you want to kind of recommend certain actions, you can't think of anything, this could work one. Okay, of course, we shouldn't reach to that level. But if you feel that I'm not able to recall anything, I don't know what to do here, maybe develop an IPS could be one of the option, because half of your syllabus is based on what IPS is. Okay, and the topics surrounding. Next one, loss aversion bias. This is very simple. This I think happens to many of us, that we somehow kind of want to avoid loss. And if you remember in last topic, we also studied something similar, that if I have a gain of 20, I will have a higher level of utility of X. But if I have a loss of 20, loss of my utility would be substantially higher than X. Right? The similar amount of losses will cause substantially higher reduction in the utility that you perceive from particular investment. So loss aversion, the name says it all, combines the effect of time horizon and framing. Impact, focus on current gain and losses, continue to hold losers in the hopes of breaking even, sell winners to capture gains. So my experience with this, In 2008, in fact, in 2006 latter part and 7 entire, I was holding Praj Industries. Okay, so Praj is the yes, ethanol based and different projects, engineering projects, and I made good money on that stock. Okay. Now, somewhere by the end of 2007, I increased the value of investment I was holding, because the markets were really doing good, and I had got used to using easy money in a way. Now in 2008, when the markets collapsed and there was a news about Praj, the news was they were looking for ADR listing. They were planning to raise in American markets, and I was kind of sure about that rumor, or at least I felt it was right. So I picked up, and then the markets collapsed. When the markets collapsed, I lost about 40-45% of my portfolio, hardly in 10 days time. So when there was such a decrease, it took me a lot of time to build courage to actually sell Praj at a loss and book those losses. So that is a loss, but I knew that it was logical to sell stock because the markets had just started the downward rally and it would continue for some time. But it was a difficult cost psychologically to book those losses, loss aversion biases. How to mitigate? Fundamental analysis. Should we go ahead? Next one. Overconfidence bias. To be honest, the name says it all. Hold. इसके सामने और एक नाम लिखो. Write down one more name. Self-attribution bias. This is a part of overconfidence. Like whenever things go good, you attribute that success to yourself. That's again overconfidence. Impact. Hold under diversified portfolios or concentrated portfolios. Because you're overly sure about certain stocks, so you don't want to diversify, you concentrate your portfolio into those holdings. And mitigation, keep records of trades. Do you understand this last point? There's one very important word here. Last sentence. This, the whole stuff. Which is the important word? Huh? See why? There is a stock A. Okay. I purchased the stock. I purchased the stock at a price of 50. Why did I purchase the stock? Because my view on the stock is I'm expecting significant reduction in cost, and therefore I feel that stock price will increase. After 1 year the stock price is 90 and I'm really happy about it. But now I try to investigate why the price increased, and it increased because of a possibility of a takeover, not reduction in cost. Now if I just look at from 50 to 90, there's a possibility that I would feel overconfident about my stock picking abilities. But if I also know what was my motivation of buying, then I would know that I have got lucky, because it was not because of reduction of cost that price increased, for some other reasons. So motivations for each trade. Are we clear? समझ में आया ना? Should we go ahead? Self-control. This is easy to remember. This, write down. Saturday evening dinner. No, write down, I'm serious. Saturday evening dinner at a star restaurant. Or every Saturday evening dinner maybe. And then Sunday morning brunch again at the same restaurant. This is self-control bias. Okay, so what this is that maybe all of us are educated and even finance professionals. Okay, I've seen recently I've been helping someone to build his portfolio. This guy made a lot of money in IB business. Okay, but of course he's doing something else now, so he doesn't want to focus on the investment side. Now, even the well-versed finance professionals, okay, they would kind of have this bias of not being able to control their spendings. Okay, so what this simply says is lacking the discipline to build your retirement portfolio and maybe indulging into too much of spending, and then you're left with a very smaller amount for retirement portfolio. So taking excessive risks to achieve targets, this is self-control bias. Straightforward. So lack discipline to balance short-term gratifications, which is your restaurant dinner, to long-term goals. Try to make up the shortfall by assuming too much of risk. Mitigation: maintain goals and be disciplined. Straightforward. So in fact ये नहीं लिखोगे तो भी चलेगा, because that's kind of very imperative. Don't do what you've been doing. Are we good to go ahead? Status quo bias. Status quo is let me think of a good example. Yeah, let's say that you're currently using a car. No car. Okay, fair enough. Maybe this would take us closer. So you've been using a car. This car is kind of an outdated version. Okay, and if you consider the fuel efficiency, it's turned out to be extremely expensive. And you know the correct decision from an economical perspective is to maybe shift to some other automobile. However, you would still keep on using it till the time it works, because you kind of want to maintain that status quo and then shift. The same logic works here, that you want to maintain status quo and you kind of have a natural tendency to resist changes, and then that bias is called status quo bias. So in an investment world, you have a set of investment, and when you purchase them, okay, maybe you must have heard a lot of people saying kharid ke bhul jao. Have you heard this term? A lot of people will give you advice, forget, buy and purchase, forget. That's a status quo bias. So when you buy, and then what traditional finance would recommend you is that keep on evaluating the new pieces of information that keep on coming, but you don't do that, a bias. Risk characteristics of the portfolio change. Investor loses out on potentially profitable assets. And what is the mitigation? Education. So now you're educated, don't fall to this bias.
Does it support the statement that timing the markets is actually difficult? Some people think that
You can't time the market. No, so this is not saying you would be able to time the market. Okay, what status quo bias is saying is that you purchase, let's say, so which stock you think is a winner for next 5 years? Okay, so you feel SBI is a winner for next 5 years, so you hold on to SBI, you purchase SBI. Now, let's say next year some new pieces of information came which said that now government would have a higher say in the how SBI runs business. In fact, that's happening now with the new scheme that's come up. The PSU bank internally are being forced really hard to open new accounts. Okay, so now if that new news comes, but you want to maintain status quo, you feel that SBI is a good stock, then one more news comes, you still want to do that, that you're kind of not willing to change, you want to maintain what we have as of now, status quo bias, straightforward. Regret aversion. Regret aversion is that there is a really good investment which you feel exists, but if I invest and if I make losses, I will regret really bad for it. So I want to avoid that possibility of regretting. So stay into low risk investments. Now, what you write here is this tendency call. So write down 2 points. Stay in low risk investments, and second, follow the herd. Now what is this? Let's say that 4 5 of you collectively decide to start doing stock evaluations, and 4 of you agree that SBI is a good stock. Vipul does not agree. Vipul feels that based on his analysis, maybe Axis would be a good pick. But if he invests into Axis, and if he eventually makes losses, he would regret that maybe did not go with the group consensus. So he would put his money in SBI. Even if he makes losses, he's got someone to blame, thinking that the whole set of people went wrong. What can I do about it? So that's regret aversion bias. Are we okay with this? Endowment bias. I think very easy to understand. Endowment means what? Huh? Yeah, or in a way you inherited. Okay. So let us say, yeah, your iPhone right here. If you decide to sell me your iPhone right now, and I'm serious about this, tell me at what price will you sell me? 41,000? Okay. Now, how many old is this? Okay, 6 months old. Yeah, Apple iPhone. Now, if you go to market and decide to purchase a similar iPhone, which is 6 months old, what do you think? What price you'll be able to fetch it, or what price would exist in the market? Obviously the same. No, it won't be the case. It won't be the case. Trust me. If you want to sell your bike, and if you ask yourself at what price I'll sell my bike, and what is the rate at which similar bike would be available in the market, there would be a significant difference. That because we get emotionally attached to the things that we have, and therefore we put a higher value on them compared to what others would put. This is called endowment bias. Okay, so they've given multiple examples, but a good example is, let's say if you inherit some property, real estate, okay, and then you would have emotional attachment to that real estate, and therefore even if your portfolio demands you to sell, you would not. Or they've given one more example, that the stocks selected by deceased husband, which are inherited by the wife, she would be reluctant to sell them. Again, an endowment bias. Are we clear? Value of owned assets higher than same assets if not owned. Stick with assets because of familiarity and comfort or were inherited. And then simply mitigation is determine whether the asset allocation is appropriate. Okay, in most of the emotional biases, one mitigation will work, and that would be education. Okay, so in case if you forget the specific mitigations, you can write education and it will still work. Are we okay here?